Hello and welcome to the video on section 3.3 on finding the least common multiple. The least common multiple is defined of two numbers a and b at the smallest positive number that is divisible by both a and b. So let's look at an easy example. So if we find the LCM of 4 and 5, first thing we can do is find the multiples of both 4 and 5. And as you can see, we have them listed here and here. As 4 is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, and so on. Then 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and so on. As you can see, the numbers in common are the 20s. Okay? Those are the least common multiples. So let's look at a few other examples and try to find a different way to find the LCM. So if we look at the numbers 12 and 42, and we want to find the LCM of those, the first thing we can do is look at a factor tree. So we know that 12 is 2 and 6, and then from the 6 we can get 2 and 3. And from the 42, let's do the same thing. We're going to have 2 and 21. And from the 21, we can get a 3 and a 7. So look at what they have in common. We both have a 2 and a 3. What we don't have in common is another 2 from the 12 and a 7 from the 42. If we take those numbers, so if we will take the 2 from the 12 and multiply it by 42, we are going to get 84. If we take the 7 from the 12, the 7 from the 42 and multiply it by the 12, we are going to get 84. And that is the easiest way to find the LCM of those two numbers. Let's look at it again here with 8 and 30. So from 8 we can get 2 and 4, and then that 4 can break down into 2 and 2. So all we're doing is finding the prime factorization for both numbers. And then we are going to look at what they have in common. So as you see, the prime factorization of 8 is 2 cubed, and of 30 is 2 times 3 times 5. Look at what they have in common. They both have 2's in common. And then what we have left is the 2 times 2 from the 8, or 4, and the 3 times 5 from the 30, or the 15. And what we are going to do, and I'm going to put a box around those, we take what they don't have in common and multiply them by the opposite number. So what we don't have in common is the 4 from the 8, so we're going to multiply that by 30. So when we do 30 times 4, and if I can make a 0 that looks correct, we're going to get 120. Well, let's double check on the other side and make sure we get 120 there as well. Well, if we do times 15, we will also get 120. So my LCM is 120. Let's move on to a couple more. So we have 4 and 12. So 4 is 2 times 2. And 12, as we've done earlier, is 2 times 2 times 3. Now what we have in common here are two different 2's. So we have a 4 in common. Now, we can say that we have a times 1 out there as well on the 4. So we look at what we don't use. We did not use the 3, so we'll box that. We did not use the 1, so we'll box that. So we take the 3 to the 4, and 4 times 3 is 12, and take the 1 to the 12, and 12 times 1 is of course 12. So our LCM is 12. So we kind of get the gist of what we're doing here. So if we look at the 6, On the next example, it's 3 and 2, and the 9 is 3 and 3. Once again, we have the 3's. Sorry, we have the 3's in common. And what we don't have in common is a 2 and another 3. So we take them to the other factor. So we have 6 times 3, which is 18, and 2 times 9, which is 18. Both the same, so we know our LCM is 18. So let's look at a couple that might be a little difficult. So let's look at the 10. We know that's a 2 and a 5. We know the 12 is a 2 and a 6. We can break 6 up into 2 and 3, but as you can see, that's not going to be anything in common with 5. So we know we have the 2's in common. The 5 from the 10 and the 6 from the 12 we do not have in common. So we take them to the other. So we're going to have 10 times 6, which is 60, and 12 times 5, which is 60. So my LCM is 60. Let's look at example 6 here, where we have 64 and 72. Looking at that, you can assume that if we were going to write out the multiples of those, we would be writing them out for quite a while. So, if we use the factor tree method, we can figure it out a lot easier. So we know that 64, if we break that up, we're going to get a 2 and a 32. From the 32, you're going to get a 2 and a 16. From the 16, you're going to get a 4 and a 4, which then will both break up into 2 and 2. If we look at the 72, we're going to get 2 and 36. From the 36, we're going to get 2 and 18. From the 18, we get 2 and 9. 9 breaks down into 3 and 3. So let's look at what we have in common here. So we have 1 2 on each side, another 2 on each side, another 2 on each side, and that looks like that is it. So we have 3 2's here, and the 2 3's on the other side. So we're going to take that and multiply it by the 72. So I'm going to have 72 times 8 on this side, and then the 64 times the 9 on that side. So if we take out and multiply these, 64 times 9. 9 times 4 is 36. Carry the 3. 6 times 9 is 54. Add 3. Should be a 576. And the 72 times 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1. 8 times 7 is 56. Plus 1 is 57. So we see our LCM is 576. So even though we have two numbers that are quite large, we can still easily find the least common multiple of both of those numbers. We will use this anytime we try to find a least common denominator when we're trying to add or subtract fractions. Hope this video helped, and thank you for listening.